Paul O'Neill, Yes Network, Yankee analyst, five-time World Series champ, and won the batting title in 1994. Paul, good morning. How are you?
How are you? Things are going well, and looking forward to the games.
Yeah. Can you overhype the Yankees and Red Sox?
Not really. I mean, I was, watching them go into the wild card game. This is really the way it should be. I mean, they've been the two best teams in the American League, and they should fight it out. And I'm anxious to see how this series goes. I
was surprised that the Yankees are a slight favorite in this series. Why is that?
Well, if you go over position by position, but if you look at the way these teams have played, and they played a lot this year, there hasn't been a lot of close games, and I would expect that this series is a little bit different because the pitching, you're playing for the game instead of playing for the season like you do throughout the year. But the Yankees are strong in a lot of positions, but Mookie Betts and Martinez, they literally change the whole game if you let them beat them. And I think that the Yankees have to make somebody else beat them other than those two.
Who is more overlooked, the Indians or the Astros?
Probably the Indians. The Astros, it's hard to be overlooked when you just won a world championship the year before. But the Indians, just because they weren't pushed all year. But if you go by, player by player, they're an extremely good and talented young team with some of the better players in all of baseball. And, Francona, obviously one of the better managers also. So they're very dangerous. And, you get in these short series and you never know who's hot and who's not. And it can change the whole the look of things.
I'm also curious about that, too, Paul, that it's a 5-game, not a 7-game series. Who does that benefit with the Yankees and the Red Sox?
I personally think it benefits the Yankees. I think that their top three match up very well. When you got Happ, Severino, and Tanaka, I think that, that you can use that in a 5-game series, where a 7-game series, a lot of times you have to throw another starter in there. And, David Price, he's a phenomenal pitcher, but is he a question mark in this series going into game 2? He is. Mm-hmm. And, there is Chris Sale a question mark? You're going to see in the first inning if he's throwing 90 miles an hour, if he's throwing 97. So, there are some differences in their offense. I mean, New York, if they hit home runs as they did in the wild card game, then they're very hard to beat, But if they're, not hitting home runs, Boston has a true advantage because they've got 300 hitters that can produce runs by just getting on base and getting hits.
I'm going to let you start your team with anybody from the Yankees-Red Sox roster. You have the first pick.
Well, I'm pretty biased because I do call the games, but I just think Aaron Judge really makes everybody else around him a lot better. Obviously, Mookie Betts is a phenomenal player, and he does so many things out on the field. But I know personally Aaron Judge makes a team of 25 a lot better.
Best playoff pitcher you faced was who?
Well, my toughest at bat was always Randy Johnson, and it just you walk up there to the plate knowing that chances are you can't hit this guy. I mean, he was just so dominant from the left side that I couldn't pick up the baseball, and it was not a fun at bat, whether it was the regular season or the playoffs.
But you go up there thinking you can't hit him, like not the best mindset to have. Right?
You know what? It's the worst. But, you can only fool yourself so much. I mean, you walk up there on the on-deck circle thinking, I'm going to dig in and really hit this guy in the first pitch. You don't even see it till it hits the catcher's glove. And, everything you've been telling yourself for the last 5 minutes is gone. And, there were times where, you faced Pedro Martinez, and there were at-bats where you literally felt like you had no chance, but then there were at-bats where, you put wood on the ball and you had a good at-bat. And Randy Johnson, I don't think I ever had a good at-bat.
Did you ever think about batting right-handed?
Yeah, I would have done the same. I would have been over. It didn't matter. Strikeout's a strikeout, whether it's for the right side or the left side. Yeah, it was no fun.
How long did it take when you got to the Yankees for you to understand the rivalry, or how you felt about the Red Sox?
It was basically spring training of the first year you get traded over there. It's just that you feel the tradition. You see the players that were before you. Mr. Steinbrenner, had certain things in order, even in spring training. Where games really don't matter. It was very important that you beat the Red Sox and you beat the Rays because they were in Florida also. So Mr. Steinbrenner didn't care if it was spring training or not. You were expected to win those games.
Did anybody ever call Mr. Steinbrenner George Steinbrenner? Any of the players?
Yeah, Boomer Wells. He'd throw a George at him once in a while. Imagine that, huh?
Yeah, well, he could get away with it. I'm just curious because even now, everybody talks with such, reverence with George Steinbrenner that it's always Mr. Steinbrenner.
Yeah, I had heard from some of the players that, Ron Guidry, guys that played in the 70s, that, he had really mellowed out by the time that the teams got together in the 90s and 2000. And I can't have enough respect for the guy because when I came over, it seemed like, he had as much on the line as far as winning and losing as the team did. And you can't say that about a lot of general managers and owners. And anything we ever needed to win, he would go out and try to do. And to me, that was the mark of a good owner.
I was curious about the Dodgers' approach to the Braves, that you don't have Clayton Kershaw going in game one. And then Clayton Kershaw said yesterday in a press conference he has nothing to prove. These guys who are great during the regular season, how do you explain, whether it's bad luck or coincidence, that some of the greatest pitchers of all time have not been great postseason pitchers?
Yeah, I think that it gets broken down that way, and it's not just in baseball; it's in sports. In period. You look back at John Elway before he won the Super Bowls; it was the same thing. It was Jim Kelly. It goes along with sports because people remember who wins. But if you're a great pitcher, you're a great pitcher. Do you get it in your head after you've had numerous bad outings? Probably. And do the media write about it, and then you start to believe it? Probably. But I'm sure that the Dodgers, if they had a Game 7 in any series, would be very confident with Kershaw on the mound. His numbers they speak for themselves. But David Price is kind of in that same boat as far as yet to really dominate a playoff series.
But then you go to Schilling. There are certain guys who just become bigger. They become faster. They become strong. There is just something about it that maybe they're just entertainers. They love the stage there. How do you explain Schilling or Smoltz, Jack Morris, some of these guys that they loved the moment? They weren't afraid.
Yeah, I think that, your last comment, they weren't afraid. The ability of not being afraid and being able to concentrate at a great level without being overwhelmed in those situations kind of make you or break you. But there are guys that are just better under pressure. Derek Jeter, to me, you couldn't tell if it was opening day of his Game 7 of the World Series. His demeanor never changed, where, you can see some players, squeezing that bat and trying to force things because you want it so much in playoffs and World Series that sometimes it backfires. And fortunately, if you were with the Yankees, you had a lot of opportunities year after year to, have to make up for a bad series where, a lot of players, you go to the World Series maybe once in your career and you don't have a great World Series, then it's written like, hey, you didn't produce under pressure. But unless you have a little larger sample size, it's very hard to judge somebody.
One of your former teammates told me about another one of your teammates that if he struck out, he wanted to make sure he looked good striking out. Did you? Do you know who I'm talking about?
No, I don't. Who was
that? A-Rod. That A-Rod, if he was going to strike out, wanted to look good striking out.
It's so funny, and I noticed that people are, you were almost embarrassed back in the 80s and the 90s if you struck out. Yeah. Now, guys walk back to the dugout with their chest up thinking, maybe I'll hit a home run next time. That part of the game has really changed to where, you felt defeated. I just got blown away and struck out, and it was almost embarrassing. Where this day and age is not. You can strike out 3 or 4 times and then hit a home run, and all's forgotten. And that part of the game has really changed.
Good to visit with you, Paul, and we appreciate your time. Hope you're doing well.
All right, I appreciate it, man. Always good talking to you.
That's Paul O'Neill. Yes Network analyst. He won the World Series 5 times.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.